Welcome to another episode of Not for the Weak-Minded. These are sad times we live in. Ever since we've been born, the things that have occurred before us have brought us here today. As a collective, and we're all trying to work out what the hell is going on. Now, this thing here, I'm showing you, Global Conflict Tracker, brought to you by the Council on Foreign Relations, and is viewed by the impact on US interests. I mean, this alone should just tell you, okay, war has not really been we don't really live in a time of peace, and we haven't, even though we may perceive that we do not. That our countries have worked towards, those of the Western civilization now I'm talking about, America, Britain, Israel, the ones that have got no problems. Apart from economically now, socially, mentally, spiritually, physically, all those problems as well. But most people don't see that there's causes, problem, reaction, solution. There's reasons why our bodies react certain ways. So this is in a map showing you critical, significant, or limited conflicts. And I'll show you the types of conflicts: civil war, criminal violence, interstate, political instability, sectarian, territorial dispute, transnational terrorism, and unconventional. Where's the hot zones? Well, currently, there's a war going on in Afghanistan still, according to this. Right? Peace, right? We live in times of peace. When our bombs are the ones doing this, BA Systems from Saudi Arabia, conflict between the United States and Iran, confrontation, territorial disputes in the South China Sea between America and China, and Russia is there too. Tensions in the East China Sea, North Korea, conflict between India and Pakistan, Islamist militancy in Pakistan. And there's a lot of stuff you need to know. For example, how countries are formed and who funded for the, let's just say that the complete takeover of that country and those resources and a system of belief. Let's say that at least. It's still holding on around the world today, but it goes by many names in all religions. But it's the same principle. And we're all kind of working out today that that's the case. We're all one. And we're all meant to be working together. We're all, the 7 races of humanity. Or there might be more. Nevertheless. Criminal violence in Mexico. Instability in Venezuela. Look at this region right here. This is the melting pot. This is Israel. Palestine. It's just never ending. Instability in Egypt. You've got blackouts in Ethiopia. You've got just today a direct energy weapon, earthquake that's just flooded New Zealand, part of New Zealand. So the war against humanity rages on every single day towards bringing a new world order. All this chaos across the earth that they're trying to usher in upon all people, no matter what they look like, the colour of skin. As soon as they get their hands on the land, they divide and conquer the people. You know, it's just the way it is. It's the way it works. So let's move on. There's a lot of things going on out there, right? A lot of tension, a lot of things that can make you go, okay, this can spoil over into what, World War III? Or a complete destruction of the Western oil civilization in favor of a new, one world economy, cashless society, United Nations. Okay. Mainstream Islamism in Britain, educating for the Islamic revival. It's a paper, and I will link up all these things. But they separate it into two groups: participationist Islamists and other members of the new Muslim Brotherhood in the West. Right. There's one thing we were going to discuss. I was just going to read the first paragraph. This goes into a little bit of history and the goals. So, during the 1960s, when this was around, the government formally suspended ties with the MCB. So the MCB is the Muslim Council of Britain. In March 2019, so we're going to talk about the Muslim Council of Britain in a minute, after the Deputy Secretary General Daud Abdullah signed the Istanbul Declaration. So what's the Istanbul Declaration? Yeah? So that's another page I could have put up. But it probably talks about it in this and stuff. But essentially, all this has to do with the resistance against the Jewish Zionist occupation, exalted the Muslim Ummah to wage jihad against Israel into the liberation of all of Palestine. It described any foreign power efforts to prevent the smuggling of arms to Gaza as a declaration of war. Communities Secretary Hazel Blears understood the document as condoning attacks on British troops as well as advocating attacks on Jews. She therefore called on MCB for Abdullah resignation, but the organisation refused to comply with her request. Abdullah admitted signing the document but denied it all entailed a call for attacks on British troops or Jews throughout the world. See this? Because our country works for Zionism, we are labelled as Jews. Right? We're not. But we, the British troops, this is why history is important, put the Jews in Israel. For the first time in 2,000 odd years. Right? Do you see? And that's written in the Bible. And this is why it's kind of important that you understand, how scripture and prophecy may have been written by those that could see the future. And everything has to play out the way it's supposed to. Which is why I'm trying to warn you now of what's to come with these agendas which have been long in the making. Since the end of the war, World War II, and even before then. Going back at least a century. Or more. So today, we got the BRIAS, the British Association for Islamic Studies. This is a conference that was meant to take place, but it didn't. In Rome. And you can look through this list and you can look at all the things they would have been talking about, right? And I guarantee it that there's going to be a mixture of truth and lies all the way through it, but there is 100% connection to the United Nations agendas. It's going to play ballpark with their format, right? That I've tried to show you in other videos. This is the way the education system's being controlled now through the United Nations doctrine. And that has everything to do with LGBT, but we're not going into that today. So, this is a book, The New Muslim Brotherhood in the West. And then I'll just scroll down. Who speaks for the Western Muslims? No American Muslim leader ever had better access to the US political establishment than Abdurrahman al-Mahdi. Sorry if I'm not saying these names correctly. After his arrival in the United States as a student in 1980, the Eritrean-born biochemist involved himself in various American Muslim organizations, assuming leadership positions in several of them. By the end of the decade, he had settled in Washington, where he began to develop an impressive network of contacts within the upper echelons of the American political establishment. In 1990, al-Mahdi founded the American Muslim Council and soon became a regular visitor to the White House, establishing cordial relations with both Republicans. So the Western Brotherhood. The history of what is today commonly referred to as the modern political Islam or Islamic revivalism starts in the 19th century when thinkers such as, we're going to get into these, Jamal al-Din al-Afghani, Mohamed Abdul and Rashid Rida began addressing the reasons for the Muslim world's state of crisis. At a time when Europeans were exerting their colonial influence in most of the Islamic world, Muslims were asking themselves why their power and culture were in decline. Many thinkers and rulers argued that their religiosity had kept them back and that the military, economic, technological and cultural advances of the West could be overcome. Do you see where I'm going? War? A bigger war than most people would consider? All staged to make us fight each other? I've got other things to say. So there's other things. If you got JSTOR, you can access the article. Next. So the Muslim Council of Britain was founded by Chaudhry Muin Uddin, 1997. You know much about this man? Okay. Well, turns out that he was a convicted criminal, war criminal, for killing Bengali intellectuals in collaboration with Pakistan Army at the time of Bangladesh Liberation War. So yeah, this corrupt individual who says, you know, he's innocent anyway, because it's disputed, is a puppet, right? He did do things, for sure. You know, I am sure it was involved. But there's other people around him much higher than him. He's just a fool guy, just like everything else. Just wrap it up and put it under one thing, and there we go. There you go, it was me. It was all, you know, he was involved, and it was another guy. But in reality, you've got Prince Charles behind them. You've got the Rothschilds behind them. Right? So let's watch a video. Just the start of this one. He's not a war criminal.
Please. Ask the question. What is needed in the world?
1971. For 9 months, war raged in South Asia between the Pakistan Army and those in East Pakistan who wanted independence. People died in their hundreds of thousands and millions were displaced. Out of this violent and bloody struggle, Bangladesh was born. More than 40 years have passed, but the scars have not healed. The massacre of Bengali civilians by Pakistani troops and their collaborators is still an open wound. In 2010, Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina set up the International Crimes Tribunal to investigate and prosecute suspects for war crimes and genocide. The tribunal has already charged more than a dozen people and sentenced several to death, including Delawar Hussein Saidi, the vice president of Jamaat-e-Islami, the largest Islamic party in Bangladesh. The verdicts were welcomed by many who wanted justice for the atrocities committed during the struggle for independence. Hundreds of thousands of students and anti-war protesters gathered in Shahbag Square in Dhaka, demanding the execution of all war criminals. But the trials have also caused a backlash among those who see them as politically motivated and an attack on Islam. In February, protesters, led by Jamaat-e-Islami and other activists, took to the streets. In the violence that followed, several people died and hundreds were injured. And the tribunal itself has come under fire from international observers. In the latest indictments, one of Britain's most prominent Muslim leaders has been charged with war crimes.
Prince Charles?
Chowdhury Muinuddin fled to Britain after the 1971 war. Now he's accused of leading a notorious militia during the war.
See all these people in the room with him? Nah, he's not connected, is he?
Abducting and torturing civilians and helping Pakistani forces to target and kill top intellectuals. The International Crimes Tribunal in Bangladesh has brought 11 charges against him, and it's set to try him in his absence. He could face the death penalty. Chowdhury Muinuddin has said little about the charges against him until now, when he talks to Al Jazeera.
Okay. I think the pictures say enough. This talk to Al Jazeera, this one here, is like just as corrupt as the BBC, right? And he's a criminal. Let's look at the comments. There's not many. There's 11. When they're going to do it against Bush. And there's things going around, I've seen, that say all these people are dead. They've been tried and crimes against humanity and they've been killed. Right? Executed. And now I believe they've been replaced by clones. Or let's say it demons, right? That's what it is. So, executions of death squads. This man is one of the executioners of the death squad that killed Bangladeshi intellectuals. Al Jazeera should have interviewed Sumud Zahid, whose mother, Selina Parvin, was picked up, tortured and killed by Muinuddin. This guy's a liar. He hates Bhutto for breaking up United Pakistan. SMR would have been a great MP. Search for the documentary War Crime Files, Dispatch Channel 4 clips on YouTube, and you'll see Muinuddin killed Bangladeshi intellectuals. Sorry. He tried in England. He's pretty much alive. These people protect their own, you know. And he isn't going to be brought to justice. There's no justice in this world when these people do this type of stuff and get away with it continually. If he is not a liar and nor a war criminal, then why is he hiding away from BD, who was commander in charge of Al-Badir in 1971? Yeah, Al-Badir, this was where you need to follow the money, just like Al-Qaeda and all the other Islamic groups, Boko Haram. They're all paid in front by the, let's say the as it is, the Shiite side of the Muslim religion rather than the Sunni, and they are funded by the Rothschilds, right? By the West. So why doesn't he come to prove it wrong? I wonder how does this killer claim himself as a Muslim? Lying naturally. This guy killed my father, made me orphan before my birth. I curse him. I curse his family. My generations will curse him too. And what a terrible liar he is. He is a war criminal. So it is obvious they will deny all allegations against him. But why the anchor of the talk show didn't force him to say the truth? Yeah. So he's a war criminal. You can see the pictures. He's standing in a room full of Gentiles, right? And you don't think he's connected. These people show you true, the truth and hid it and plain sight. While they say one thing and do the complete opposite. And he's the guy that founded, right, the Muslim Council of Britain. And you think this isn't corrupted from the get-go, right? This is for the Muslim community to wake up, because they're going to be used and manipulated for a civil war. So yeah, criminal. Islamic Forum of Europe, believed to be an extremist organisation, and a trustee and former chairman of the Muslim Aid, and a director of Muslim Spiritual Corps provision of the United Kingdom's National Health Service. I mean, these people put themselves in high places, don't they, when they do really bad deeds against humans. Well done, son. I'll put you in a bit of place of power. Like they have to cause sacrifices. You see what I'm saying? On 3rd of November 2013, the International Crimes Tribunal, which is set up by the government of Bangladesh to judge international crimes committed during 1971 Bangladeshi Liberation War, sentenced Mohamed in absence to death for killing 9 teachers of Dhaka University, 6 journalists and 3 doctors in 1971. Mohamed has remained in the United Kingdom since leaving Bangladesh shortly after its independence in 1971. Mohamed denies the charges. He is alleged war criminal long before creation of International Crimes Tribunal. 1972, the New York Times reported that he has been identified as the head of a secret commando-like organization of fanatic Muslims. 1995 documentary film made by David Bergman named War Crimes File was aired on British television Channel 4, showing his involvement in the 1971 Bangladeshi genocide. Right. That's the guy that founded this organisation, folks. So please, if you're still listening, there's much more to discuss, but I'd like you to share this. Now, I haven't got time to do everything. Why is it on images? But we need to, we need to all come together as one and see that that's exactly the same things they're trying to achieve is the things that we actually need to do, right? But in a different way. We need the cornerstone of Christ, let's call it, rather than their cornerstones. So Mohamed Abdul. Wait a sec. It's on here. Gave you a list, didn't it? History of what today is commonly referred to as modern political Islam and Islamic revivalism starts in the late 19th century when freethinkers Jamal al-Din al-Afghani, Mohamed Abdul and Rashad Rada began addressing. Right. So we've talked about Chawadi. Let's talk about... Yeah, just do it in order. So he just don't have to. You can read it all if you like, but he was a royal Egyptian elite, right? Enough said. And this guy most influential and controversial scholars of his generation, and was deeply influenced by the early Salifa movement. So I don't know what that is. Shall we look? The Salifa movement, also called the Salafist movement, Salafia or Salafism, is a reform branch of revivalism movement within Sunni Islam that developed in Egypt in the late 19th century as a response to Western European imperialism. It had roots in the 18th century Wahhabi movement. Okay. But yeah, he's responsible or influential in the Salafi movement, early movement, and the movement of the Islamic modernism. mean, there's a lot going on out there, isn't there? As I just said, there's earthquake, you know, going on. It hit New Zealand, weather modifications working wonders in Britain. It's just raining all the time, flooding us out. Right, moving on. I'm sure there's plenty of things we can discuss if you dig deeper into these people. So here's this guy here. There's a series of published both in Arabic and English, a Lebanese newspaper. Politics and culture of the Middle East and North Africa. Say the eyes are the window of the soul. So he's born 1838. And he was primarily a politician. He was also a journalist and a public intellectual. He's considered one of the leading pioneers of the Islamic Renaissance and the school of reform and renewal. He studied Shia law and Sufism. He also familiar with other fields such as logic, philosophy, and mathematics. Historians and intellectuals differed regarding his birthplace and the place where he received his religious education. So, what they're saying here is, they're telling you truth and lies, right? They often use great people's works and masquerade them as themselves. And this is exactly probably what they're doing here. You know, this is of great importance, and then twisted it for their own agendas as well through time, changing it, manipulating it. This is of great importance, especially because he was an activist in Sunni Muslim countries. Documents prove that he received his education in Kasabian region and Tehran, and then later in Karbala and Najaf, thereby predominantly Shiite religious centers. His contemporaries and students, including Mohamed Abdul, yes, Rashid Rida, do you see the names? State that al-Afghani received his religious education in Afghanistan, which is mostly Sunni, and therefore belonged to the Sunni sect. So there's two sides to the Muslim religions, right? Sunni, Shiite. And both sides have been played off each other through history. They have put nation against nation. They have put divided the people so that they fight each other through religion. When we're all one, you know, and the things that are going around us today have led up to that, to this moment in time, where war is on the horizon, and this war will be like no other war, and it will end very quickly. And the reason why, I do believe they've told us in the programming that they say, the soldiers say this, they've been told this will be over by Christmas. Well, the Queen said last year, this will be our last Christmas, and I know she was wrong. The reverse speech said as well, for example, that it was not permitted, so to speak, this year. It was misgiven or misheard, wrong timing. Well, that could be this year instead. I hope not, but I can't change the time we live in, can I? I can't change the fact that there's war going on out there, and that the Zionism controls our economy, which is corrupted by oil and that, and because of this industry and the centuries of lies, the truth is the only thing that's going to set everyone free, across the earth. Bad times. So let's go back. So yeah, they say these names, right? So he's connected to these people, and he studied both sides. Some historians argue that al-Afghani hid his place of birth to conceal his Shiite origin in order to not raise suspicion by Sunni scholars of his ideas and cause. Infiltration. Right? Spent his life travelling between India, Afghanistan, Egypt, Astana, Paris and London. Worked as a politician and journalist in periods that allowed historians to trace and document his life. He's very well connected, right? And we can read more, no doubt. Never JSTOR article. No God in common. American evangelical discourse on Islam after 9/11. So, yeah, you can read about the Western civilization and how, well, it's difficult because it involves all world religions in a way, and how they used to be united as one understanding, if that makes sense. Because this is why all world cultures are the same, you know. We had when it all boils down to it, particularly when you think about technologies as well and how they've come about, you know, and how patents have been of the same thing can be through history in two different locations at the same time. It does make you wonder, doesn't it? Things have to happen for a reason. So we are in the sorting process today, in my opinion, and this whole scenario is gonna cause a lot of problems, and I don't want it to want it. You know what I mean? But yeah. Moving on. Atheism and Islam on the rise in the UK as Christianity suffers dramatic decline. You got to bear in mind the Catholic Church are not Christian, right? And Christianity, just like Islam in a way, has been, it's like a focal point for consciousness, you know what I mean, and knowledge. And the people in the past had a lot more knowledge than they've ever told us, and how they used it. And during these times, they used that knowledge to manifest a better future, and this has to do with foundations based on facts, right? Of which there is absolutely in the Bible. It's just that now today most people need to look at a great deal of information to know that's the truth, rather than what they've been seen on the television, and that's difficult. To reprogram your entire mind towards a complete perception of reality that is not what you've been told takes time. I've been trying to show people you know, myself, but it's difficult. So Christianity's suffering. We're all suffering, okay? Every one of us is suffering. But we gotta get on top of who's teaching what and why they're teaching it, and the outcome if we don't stop it, because it will end in civil war. It will end in bloodshed. Shame of Britain's Muslims schools, and this is 2011, right? Secret filming shows pupils being beaten and taught Hindus drink cow piss. And there's other stuff, right? I'll leave the links in the description. Lessons of hate as Islamic schools in Britain. Network of more than 40 part-time Islamic schools and clubs with 5,000 students have been teaching from Saudi Arabian government curriculum that contains anti-Semitic and homophobic views, including a textbook that asks children to list the reprehensible qualities of Jews, according to the BBC documentary broadcast on Monday. Right? Zionists, world domination. Do you see what I'm saying? Hellfire. The Islamic people are their prophecy is being written right now, right? Because they're the people that absolutely believe in their holy books of God are going to get tricked. But everyone's going to get tricked in the end. Right? that don't wake up, 100%. They're going to be lured in by the wonders of the Antichrist system. Because we're going to have to go through a lot of trials and tribulations. Right? Because we don't live in a time of peace. We're living in a time of war. Any moment now, bombs could start flying over your heads. Any moment. Right? Or any moment, a direct energy weapon can hit somewhere and cause a tsunami. It's just the way it is. Okay. How Islamic State is training child killers in doctrine of hate. March 2016. At least 50 UK youngsters are growing up in the ISIS caliphate, where education means watching videos of murders. I mean, yeah, getting them desensitized to that, but it's the brainwashing for them to hate the West, right? Because we are the ones that have bombed their countries. We're the ones that have caused mass migration. We're the ones that have caused millions and millions of people to die, right? Because our government is part of a massive agenda to create a one world economy. Even though our economy is being destroyed, they will back up the next one. It doesn't matter. They play all sides, these people. So it's bad. Let's listen to this.
Who control housing. We have a Muslim Housing Association in London, so we cannot access that housing. There's a Muslim Police Association in London. It's not one like you have. You have the pretend Muslim police, don't you? Who have the pretend NYPD cars. Ours is real. The Muslim Police Association. And before you know it, you have this dual policing system that starts off, and that's not a good thing to witness. So I'll give you one example. In a place called Glasgow, it is a rough end of Glasgow. There's a densely packed Muslim population. It's the middle of the day, 4 o'clock. And out onto the street comes a woman. She's all aflame. She's all lit up. And she's screaming, "Help me, help me." And the guy hears her and he runs out. He's in a garage where he's working. He manages to find water. She's on the grass now, laid down. And he manages to throw water on her and puts her out. And I have pictures still of the grass where they picked her up and put her in the ambulance, all black and burnt. That part of Glasgow is under Sharia. It's under Muslim policing. They did a statement. The police said there were no suspicious circumstances. And the local mosque, despite the fact there was no other comment to be made by the police, the mosque said, "It was one of our sisters. It was not a hate crime, so people don't need to be concerned. But a good Muslim doesn't gossip about what happens to a sister." Now, when you start with that kind of policing happening, then all of your faith in your country is very easily diluted. The reason 2,000 of our young white girls were raped in one town alone, Rotherham, was because when the girls went to the police didn't want to be called Islamophobic. When the girls told the social workers, they didn't want to be called racist. The girls were pushed away, turned away. "No, you must be wrong." Some of them were from care homes, so they just weren't believed. And in the end, 2,000 girls were raped by gangs of majority Pakistani Muslim men.
We will.
Essentially, we got a massive problem on our hands in this country, and it's very paedophilic indeed. It does involve Islam. It does involve Zionism, because they are still paedophilic. And it involves a revival. What I just looked at then, I wasn't laughing at what she was saying. I was laughing at a picture. that I've seen on Facebook. I'll show you in a second. I will do a video after this. Islam set to become world's largest religion by 2075, study suggests. And then you got this. Right? They're telling you. You know, these things are not real. They're just the power of suggestion. Yeah? So they want the Muslim, they want an Islamic world. Because it's easier for them. It can be more brutal. People might not have any rights if they go out of line, let's say, right? Under religious views. Which are not, it isn't freedom. So please share, like and subscribe. Till next time. Thank you.